So in our previous video, we imported the 3D scan, cleaned up the mesh, removed regions, analyzed and fixed the mesh, and also did some trimming. So we trimmed off the back. Now there's been a few comments regarding the trim itself that it wasn't needed because we're actually removing parts of this model. And there's an assumption on my side that part of this, as you can see, the jagged edge, was just noise. And also the patrons come back and said that there is actually parts of this missing. So if we look around, we can actually see this is the actual full STL back. And I've just gone through the same process, cleaned the mesh up, exactly the same. And if I look around, I've got the plane here, which I'm just going to transform out of the way. My assumption is that parts of this is missing. And this is going to go onto a piece of basically baseboard. So it's got to be flat against that baseboard. So we've got to straighten this off at some point. And I'm going to show you a little tool in here that we can use to fill in that missing surface. Remember, we're just making the formers along here. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to make a cut against this as I did before. I'm just going to show you something in the curves workbench that we can use that will follow the contours of this surface when we section through them and see if that is a viable option. Let's OK that. I know I've moved it up even further. And what we'll do is take the plane, control click the component, the mesh. And this time we use the trim plane with mesh. But I'm going to use a split. So what happens with the split, we get both sides. We get the top and the bottom. Let's hide this plane. So you can see we've got the top and the bottom there. And we've got a split between those. I'm going to take a copy of this plane, edit, duplicate selection, this plane here, and I'm going to use this for cross-sectioning. So I'm going to right click and transform and position this to where the cross-section I want. And we'll flip this up and we'll look from the top and position it, a little bit of rotation, or quite a lot of rotation, and we'll place it around about here and bring this down. So this will cross-section through this part here. I want to take some of the missing section, so I'm guessing this is the missing section here. And I'll make a cross-section across here like that. That's okay that. We're using this top mesh and control select the plane. And we have this option here, this tool here to create section from mesh and planes. It's also available for meshes and cutting. Create section from mesh and plane. I click that, you'll notice that we've got a curve that goes around that section there. Click on the plane, press the space bar. It's non-parametric, so it's just a section, so it's just a shape in there. Now I've got a workbench installed called the Curves Workbench. We can install it from the Tools and Add-on Manager, and we'll find something called Curves in there. Not Curved Surface, the Curves Workbench. You install that, as well as surfaces, it deals with curves as well. It actually deals with wires, so anything that's a wire, it will take, or an edge, and convert it to a curve. So I'm going to take this top section and press the space bar. We're just going to leave the bottom section. I'm going to come up and select that section. I'm going to convert that to a B-spline. And we're going to extend out the bottoms of that curve. So first of all, we need to convert it to a B-spline with the join curves. That joins that into a single B-spline. And now we can take the join curve by selecting it, clicking on it, and we'll use this one, the curves extend. Now, when we select that, what happens is the curve will become purple, and you can see already that it's extended downwards. So it follows the trajectory of those curves at the end and extends downwards. We come onto the data tab, select the extend curve. You can see it more clearly there. And let's extend out the length end to say 30 and hit enter. And you can see how far that's gone down. And do the same with this one, 30. And go a bit further with that one. So let's go 45. And extend that out the end anyway to see the trajectory of that curve. And you can see how close that is hugging that surface. So this is a viable option for creating cross sections across there. Allow us to follow that trajectory of that surface. I don't often find it used for the extend curves in the curves workbench. I've used it a handful of times, and this is one of the rare occasions that it can be used. I'm trying to find applications for it, and they're quite few and far between. Just going to back off the start to around about 35. So we're looking at about 30 and 35 on those extends there. And if I look at this one, well, it's coming out to here. Let's extend it forward. Let's set this to 35. And that looks about right. So it's covering that part there. So we get a nice extension through there. Click on this, press the space bar so you can see it there. Let's go back to our component. We don't want the first one, we want the second one. And bring back the plane. That's the cross-section plane. So we can use this plane now to cross-section again. So let's come over to the meshes workbench and look at the cross-sectioning for there. So I'm going to select it, right-click, transform. There is a number of ways of doing this cross-section. I'm going to spin this around about here and do the same, hit OK. Unfortunately with this, we only can do one cross-section at a time with one plane. Now, the other thing to note is if this plane was shorter, let's create the length of, say, 400. So it doesn't actually section through. It will still go all the way through this. This creates a plane all the way through here. So if I take this plane and the model and do the cross section again, you notice what's happened. It's kept in line with that plane. So we don't have to go all the way through. Right click, transform. Let's think of our next one. Somewhere here, we'll just transform this as well. Hit OK, click the plane, click the mesh, and another cross section. Right click, transform, and we just repeat the process. Well, first of all, let's select the plane first, rather than both of them. Right click, transform, there we go. Also, you notice that we'll create a section through here and also a section on the opposite side as well. So a cross sectioning right way through that object like so. We just have to be careful as well, because if we create another one, say going across here, then we're going to get a cross section going through here, which we have to discard. Each of the sections are separate, so you can see them all in there. So this one, I don't really want this one here. And delete that and select the other one on the other side. The reason why we've got two there is because we've got this void inside. You can see I've still got one in here as well. So I'm going to click on that one and hit delete. Select the plane, right click transform, and decide where this is going to go. Select the plane, select the mesh, add the cross section. Once we've finished, we can select the plane, press the space bar just to hide that, and decide what cross sections we want to keep. So for instance, I'm looking along here. I don't need this one. Number 9, so I select it, hit delete, get rid of it. This one has gone all the way around here and also here. Just click it, hit delete. And I think we're more or less there. So if I select the mesh and press the space bar, we can see we have all the cross sections going through there. We've got one here, which I don't want. So I'm going to click it and hit delete. So from there, we can change these into join curves and curve extends over in the curves workbench. Now, if I go to edit and box selection and select this one here and use the extend curve, that's not going to work. You have to select the section first, change it to a join curve, and then change that join curve to a curve extend. But make sure you select it from the 3D view, like so. And then we can change that. And this one was 35 and 35. Let's just make sure that's the same for this one as well, 35 and 35. Let's bring back the top component and the bottom component. And I'm looking at it, and well, we can back this one off a bit, but I'm going to go for that for the time being. So let's take those two, press the space bar to hide them. And the good thing about that is that if we take this section now, so make sure we select the whole of it from the tree view, and then the next one, section 5, got 6 there. I'm going to leave that for a second and find the other sections. Is this one, section 2, that, this one, got to make sure the whole section is selected. So you can see it's selected in the tree view, click it once and then click it again. So we've got those 4 selected. We use the join curve. What happens is they will be created all as join curves now. Now I must have got the other ones, so I didn't really want to do these ones. Let's bring those back. I must accidentally select those for some reason. So these, bring those back, just pressing the space bar on those. And we've got these here. So I don't want that one, don't want that one. Hit delete. Those two, hit delete on those. So we've got all the join curves. We select all the join curves now. Control select all those. And select the curves extend. So extended at each of those. And now we'll take all of them. Won't do that one, we've already done that one. This one. And doesn't matter now, as long as we select one of these first, because we're going to change the parameters all at once. So we select one that's got the 10 by 10, and we'll select all the rest. All the extend curves. And they're all going to be set to 35 by 35 and click off. So we've got all those extended now going through there. And if we look back at the component, bottom part, they're fitting all nicely around there. And we've just got to deal with these now. So these ones are a bit different because we've got some anomalies on here. So we may have to downgrade these, remove these parts, it's all part of that cross sections, and then perhaps change this one to a curve extend, and then change this one to a join curve, because this one's okay. Well, actually we need a curves extend to go down here, so they still need to be curve extends. Let's do this one first. And that one's a join curve, and select the join curve, curve extend, and I select it first. So this one needs to go 35. It should be the end. Click off. There we go. That's in. We need to edit this one. This one looks fine. Something behind there. What's that behind there? Press the space bar. We've got a join curve in there, which we can use. So I'm going to extend that join curve. I have got this bit here, which I'm tempted to get rid of. It is part of the model though, so I might as well keep that. So let's take that, extend the curve, that. The end 35. That's the wrong end, so you can see that end on there. Let's set that back to 0. And set length start. There we go. Length end, let's check the length end on this one. That should be 0 because we don't need to extend it. Now we can work on this one. So we've got this curve that goes over the top here. So it drops in. Now I may want to get rid of this. If we do, what we can do is use the draft workbench. So we take that section over in the draft workbench. And I'm going to use the modifications and downgrade. So I've selected the section, this one here. Modifications, downgrade. Watch what happens. So we get a number of edges now. So it's downgraded the wire into edges. That means that I can come in and take away what I want from here. So let's select a box selection and highlight that end there. And what you'll see in the left-hand side is a number of those edges have been selected. I can use the Control key and unselect these. So I'm still keeping this selection. Unselect what I don't want, and then take my finger off Control and hit Delete. So those edges now have been prepared. Let's take the last edge, come up to our first edge, this one here, hold down Shift and click, select them all, and then we do the reverse, modifications and upgrade. So I've upgraded all those back to a wire now, which I can use back in the curves workbench to make a join curve and an extend curve to extend it down. So what we end up with is a number of curves. So we've got a number of curves there. And now we can make our sections from these. So now we've got all the cross sections. Check them over, look to the left and hide this here. So you can see they're all in line, nicely in line sitting there. We need to take these ones and make them a closed wire. Now in the curves workbench, we have this tool here, power ratchet line. You can take this point and create a line between them. So I've control selected both those points, both those vertices. We'll take the vertex, start vertex, end vertex, add a line. And we're going to work our way around. Now I've got the majority of our curves and lines. Let's come over to the draft workbench and flatten them. So we're going to flatten these into a sketch. Select the line, select the curve, and then we come up to the modifications and draft to sketch. Click off now. You can see we've still got the curve and the line. We have a sketch down here. You can select both of those, curve and that line, press the space bar. And we got this sketch. If I double click it, you can see we have that sketch within there. That means that's reset any of the normals in there. So our normal to this will be normal to sketch. Sometimes when creating cross sections, we wouldn't be able to extrude these. So if we come over to the part and say extruded this one here, it may extrude, it may not. That one's extruded, so I'm going to hit Control Z and we'll find one that doesn't extrude in a minute. So you can see it can't determine a normal vector. Whereas this one, it could. Let's go back to the draft workbench. Take the line, take the arc, modifications, draft to sketch. Press the space bar because the previous objects are still selected. And now when we come into the part, take that sketch, and we can extrude it. Just going to hit Ctrl Z, and we'll go back to the draft and repeat for all the others. Now for this one, I'm going to take all of those selections. So I've got the 2 extend curves and the line, and we'll do the same. Draft the sketch. Notice that some of these are a different color, and that's only because I've changed the selection order. So before I selected the connecting line and then the extend curve, and with others I selected the extend curve first and then the extended line. And depending which way around you select them, we'll take the color of the last selected as the color of the sketch. I'm going to do these ones as well. So now we've got something to extrude, but we have some open profiles here and some profiles that we have to deal with. Let's come over to the part workbench and select all of these sketches. Now looking at them on the left hand side here, I only need to select one edge. I'm not going to select this one because it's open. So I'm selecting all the closed sketches, all the closed profiles. Hold down Shift and selected those. Release Shift and use the extrude. Take 10mm and hit OK. That's extruded all of those now. Now we have to deal with this one, this sketch here. Let's double click it. And this is a void within here. So I'm going to use the create polyline and bring this one down and just come across. Right click to cancel the tool and close. We'll use that sketch and extrude that and hit OK. Then we have this one. I've selected that, and what have we got selected? So it's at the top here, this extend curve. So I'm going to select that and press the space bar. Still visible for this one. We'll click that. And we need to do something with this, because this, if we come back and have a look, is this part here. So we just need to make a simple extension of this going down and across. Press the spacebar again to hide that mesh and use the polyline. And these are getting in the way. All of this here is getting in the way, so that's come up under sketch, and we want the B-spline tools. And I can see all of these are grayed out. So I'm just going to right click and cancel the tool and click on this B-spline if I can get it. Bring it around this way. I can see it flickering. So those are available now. And we can remove what we want from there. So let's remove that one. And we'll remove the weights. So now I can sketch in what I want in here using the polyline again. And we'll place something in here. Going down. We'll come across and down again. Make sure we join up on the bottom. Highlight those two, make sure they're coincident. And I'm not sure if these two are joined up here, so highlight those, click and drag, make those coincident. And then I can close. Again, select the profile and extrude it and hit OK. Finally, we've got this one. Our last sketch, again, I've selected the extends and I'll click sketch. We can see that in there. I'm going to use the center sketch view. There we go. So we've got that there. So notice that our navigation cube is in the middle of a view. So if we've gone this way, it's hard to get back to that view. So we just use this tool at the top here. And this has got to be kept in line, which is quite awkward. So I'm going to borrow some geometry, borrow this point here. So I can create a line between here and this point. And we'll also drop a line in from here to here. And this one didn't connect, so let's hit escape and highlight those two and use the coincident. Hit close. Take this one and extrude it and hit OK. So now we've got all our cross sections. Component 2. We can see how they sit in there. So this is for forming that shape out of metal. It's up to you how many cross sections you place in here, or if you want to place additional sections going this way. But we're starting to form the shape that we want. Let's hide this one. For our next part, we need some kind of board for this to sit on. So I'm going to use, well, I can pull back the plane again, not that one. Let's look at the original. And we'll take this plane and extrude it. Let's go for 10 millimeters and apply that. So we've got our original plane there. I'm going to close that, and then take the plane, not that one. Let's have a look, come down to the bottom. Inside the extrude, we'll see the plane in here. Press the space bar, and we'll move that down on the Z axis. So move it down here. And click off. So we've got that there. Let's hide that plane for a second by clicking on the extrude, pressing the space bar. Also, the plane within needs to be hidden. If we look towards the bottom, then we have all these faces on here, and we can use part design and this tool in here, the subshape binder. Now, the reason why I'm using this is to create some tolerance. Obviously, if I was making a cutout of this on the board, then this wouldn't fit. There needs to be some tolerances around here. So if I click the face, hold down Control and select all the other faces, all the bottom of these faces. And I can move about the screen. So I've let go of Control and use the shortcut to move, which in my case is the Shift. Taking my finger off the Shift, hold down Control and select the other faces and repeat. So we've got all those selected now, and then use the subshape binder or part design, create a sub object shape binder. Now what's happened is that the faces have been bound. You can see those in there in green. Going to the model, you see the extrudes are still visible. Press the space bar, that hides all those extrudes as one. And then we select the binder. And if we look down to the left, there's an offset. So I can give this an offset, come in a bit and press 1 in the offset. We've got 1 in there, click off. You notice that we have this curvature here, and that's bringing back the extrude. So I'm going to click on one extrude, click on the other. I don't want the last one because that's the plane. Let's Control select that and press the space bar. And you can see that we've got a 1 millimeter gap around here. We've got a curve on the ends, and we can sort that out by coming into the binder and looking at the offset join type. Let's bring this out a bit. So we've got the offset join type here. I'm going to set this to tangent. These curves we strained off, so we get an offset going around here. So now we've got the offset. Let's hide these extrudes and bring back the plane extrude. We have a base and we have these offsets. The binder in the part, so go over to the part workbench, can be extruded. And I'll be using symmetrical extrude. So that will extrude from the top and the bottom. And we'll do this for 20 millimeters and hit enter. Can't determine normal vector, so I want to go along the Z axis. Click Z and then click OK. So we've extruded that, and that's not gone further enough. So click on the extrude and set this to something like 200. So that's gone right the way through there. And then I can take the one I want to keep, control click the one I want to remove, click one of these, click the other extrude, and then use the cut. So now what we've done is cut the holes with tolerances for that board. If the tolerances aren't right, we can come into that cut and have a look at the last extrude, which was the binder, and then set the offset and increase that. I set that to 5, and we can increase that, allowing for our extrudes to sit in there. So we've created the cross sections and we've created the baseboard. Now we have to think about the application. So this is going to be laser cut. So I need to take 2D view of all these, including the baseboard, and output them to something like an SVG. First of all, we need to get that 2D view. It's getting a bit cluttered in our tree view. So we're going to add groups in here. So I click on the Former 2 project, right click, and create group. So we've got our group. I'm going to place all the extrudes in there. And right click on the group and rename. And these are the cross sections. This one's the baseboard. And I'll place that inside there as well. To create a 2D view from this, we'll come over to the draft workbench. The first one we need to do is the baseboard. Let's get the easiest one over and done with first. Got the gridding on, let's turn that off. So what we do is click the baseboard, come up to the modifications and shape 2D view. What we get now is a shape 2D view here. Inside the cross sections, I still have the baseboard in here visible, so I press the spacebar on that. And what we get is this now. So this is a 2D outline of that board. So we've got that one there. Rename them as we go. Next, we have to align our views with these. So I'm just going to hide this 2D view. So if I try to take, say, a view that was off center around here with this one and create a 2D view, it wouldn't actually work. So if I come up to the modifications and 2D view, then you notice that we have the edges in here, which is not what we want. We need it flat onto the view. So it's an actual projection from the viewpoint. And that's quite hard from a viewpoint like this. So there is a way of doing this. We make sure that nothing's selected. So click on some blank space. Utilities, and then select plane. On the left-hand side, you see the working plane set up. So it's saying select a face or working plane proxy. Select the face, then come over and select move working plane. Now, you can see nothing's happened. That's because I hid the grid, which was silly. And if I click off, you can see that working plane, that grid, has moved to that face. So it's moved to the face, but our view hasn't moved. Let's make sure nothing's selected and come up to the utilities and select plane and click center view. And now our view is centered on that working plane. And you notice how we're between views here. So we mustn't rotate our view. We select that face, come up to the modifications and shape 2D view. Now what we get, if I click that extrude and press the spacebar, is that somewhere, if I click on the shape 2D view and use the fit all, we can see was actually fit selection I needed. We can see it there. If I bring it around to this side, you can see we've got that cross section. So this was Extrude 8. This was section 8. And we basically repeat the same process for all of these. Then we'll repeat the process, but let's take a shortcut. This time, make sure nothing's selected and then select this face. Go up to the utilities and select plane. That places that upon that plane now. Make sure nothing's selected, utilities, select plane, and then hit the center view. Centers the current view. Click that face. Modifications, shape to 2D view. So now we've done this one, which is cross section 7, and I can rename that. So we've reduced the workflow steps by selecting the plane first, and then using the utilities and select plane. And we just repeat the process. We keep on going until we get all the 2D views that we want. These can be exported. So I'll take this one, File, and Export. Then we can export them as an SVG. I save that, and if we open it, we can see we have the exported SVG. So we've got that there. And that's ready for printing or laser cutting. And we repeat the process for each of the 2D views, and we get a number of files that we can use in our laser cut. So I hope that's helped with the question with the Patreon, and I hope that's given you an insight of using the draft workbench and the mesh workbench together to create these cross sections. Hope you enjoyed that video, and I hope to see you in the next one. If you like what you see and you want to donate to the channel, then you can do so via Ko-Fi or Ko-Fi at ko-fi.com/MANG0, or via PayPal at paypal.com/paypalme/DarrenBEstone. I also run a Patreon where you can get early access and additional content, and that's at patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Links can be found in the channel header, on the About page, or in the descriptions of these videos. I thank everybody that's donated so far. It really helps to keep the lights on so I can produce more content and also expand the channel. Thank you for liking, commenting and subscribing to these videos, and I hope to see you again in the next one.